Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those of you still on the fence, welcome back to another episode of Derailed, courtesy of Arcaicskidz. I'm, of course, your host, Arcaicskidz, and we have Alex and Barbara with us. Alex is the founder of Mantafly. Follow her on Twitter. It's all in the description below. And they also together host a YouTube channel called Parenting Trap. That's also in the description below. Go subscribe to them. They're hilarious. What's up, ladies?
Thank you. Thanks for having us on, Austin. This is so great to be here.
Right on. So we are going to start with you're the words aren't working today. You're the founder of Mantafly. Tell me about that.
Yes. Okay. So it was a project that I came up with last summer when everything was shut down. And I wanted to get my legs waxed because I wanted to be able to wear skirts and like shorts. And I hate shaving. So I thought, surely there's waxers out there who would travel to my home to help wax me. And I'm willing to pay for that. Why can't I find them? So I thought if I create a meeting place for beauticians, people who do hair, nails, waxing, anything beauty related, and clients to meet each other, then that would help people. It would help people get back to work. It could help people looking for services when there's tyrannical mandates.
Did you?
I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
I look at my sister sometimes when I feel like I'm about to say something controversial. And I'm like, should I say this? I don't know.
Did you run into any legal trouble with that out there in California?
No, because it's too small. No one knows of me yet. Okay, so I had a couple people write like, this is illegal, this is wrong, blah, blah, blah. But what's funny is last summer when the shutdown happened and was going so long and all these other states were opening up, I was following.
Not my state.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And where do you live?
I'm in New Mexico, and we have a little 4-foot hobbit that runs the state, and she's a tyrant.
Oh, that's not good. Okay, so when the shutdown was happening, I started an Instagram profile, Twitter, all of them, right? Because I just wanted to grab the name Mantafly. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that most of the people that were offering these services were on Instagram, and they were selling their services. They were like, hey, we'll come to your home and do your hair, nails, makeup, all this stuff, because they are people who need to make a living. They need to feed their families.
Right.
And but the problem is Twitter, there's no good way to search for people in a geographic location for things that they'll do. You have to just kind of stumble upon it using hashtags and friends of friends type thing. So I started following a bunch of them, and a lot of people were against the shutdown. And so I actually put out some ads. Basically saying that the shutdown is unjust and that we should save our salons. And it's interesting I did that because salons would be a competitor of mine, but I feel like it's my job to be moral. Like I'm driven by my philosophy, and I'm against the shutdown. And I think it's more important that I hold true to my values than make cutthroat business decisions. So right. I actually ran some ads saying like, this shutdown is unjust. And I got a lot of people following me because of that. Unfortunately, we didn't launch, and we're still not really launched. We're in beta testing, but it didn't happen until after the shutdown. So the wind in our sails, because before people are like, yes, we need this. And then it kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, obviously I think it just got waylaid a little bit, and it's not, you can't develop an app overnight. And I think that's something that was a big learning curve for Alex. And not that you were expecting it to happen overnight, but even longer. It was
supposed to be done by the end of August, and it was not. And that's a whole
It's
nightmare.
Sort of like doing a renovation on your home. Whatever time you're given to do it, expect it to take at least twice as long and cost twice as much.
And even more if you don't know what you're doing.
And then even
because
more.
I don't know anything about developing apps. I just paid a company to do it. And it is still not quite done. So yes.
Well, the renovation on the home thing wouldn't work for me because I actually do that myself. So it's fine. But
then the analogy works out perfectly, because if I knew how to develop, I would develop it myself. But I don't. I don't know
that works.
how to do
that's
that.
Fair.
Yeah.
What do you do, Barbara?
I'm just a mom right now. I'm not working currently. I do the podcast. I edit the podcast here with Alex. And other than that, I just spend my days with my kids. And it's awesome. I love it so much.
That's awesome. All right. Well, good luck. And, it's not like these governors didn't get a taste for blood and locking people in their houses. So it might come in really handy again. I know Oregon they just shut down all their restaurants and bars and everything all over again. So whatever.
I didn't know that. Why?
Yeah, because they're idiots. I don't know.
But are they, the excuse they're using, is it because like numbers are spiking or something?
I have no idea. I think that's what they said, but it's nonsense. It doesn't, we have too much. There's too much data out there now from states like Texas and Florida and South Dakota and Missouri where they're wide open and their numbers are going down.
Right. So. Oh yeah. No, it's not about like science anymore. It's about control. And it always has been. So in that sense, I kind of feel like I just need to be patient, because it's going to happen again. Like what happens when winter comes and there's a new flu strain? Because every year there is a new flu strain, or there's going to be whatever it is. There's going to be a new boogeyman. Now they know what we will put up with, and they're going to continue to push. They're going to push. They're going to keep seeing how much they can do. Yeah,
well, I mean, everyone's going to find out, because in about 30 minutes, Old and Chief is actually going to do a State of the Union. So there's that. Like, I'm interested to watch the memes that come out of that one, because he's just a gaffe machine. But that's also because he's senile. So there's that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I have a good time with it. There's a great YouTube channel called Freedom Tunes, and you can follow it. That. Yeah, yes. He just did one where it's like, these are all things that Joe Biden actually said, and he basically just edited some cartoon stuff into it, and it was hilarious. I think I saw that one. Yes,
I need to check that out.
Those guys are awesome.
All right, so your show, Parenting Trap. I watched a couple of episodes of it. Made me laugh. It's interesting to see how people differentiate, in how they handle raising children. So why don't let's talk about that. What made you want to start that?
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest here. This is when I started Mantafly, I was telling everyone about it, and I was very naive. I thought that I could just create something, like pay someone to develop the app, and then tell people about it, and people would get excited. And then I found out that's not true. You need more than that. Yeah. So then I actually hired Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's like a big personality online, and he does marketing basically. And so I hired his team to help me, and they were like, you need to start a podcast or something that's of value to people, where you're giving people things for free that's of value to be able to funnel people into your business. And I was like, okay, that's great and all, but I don't know anything about beauty. I literally started a company that has nothing to do, all I know is I wanted that service, which isn't enough. Like I can't give people valuable things from that. Right. And I said, but the thing I'm actually passionate about is raising kids and respectful parenting. So they were like, all right, fine. That's fine. You can do that. It's better if it has something to do with your business, but if it doesn't, okay. So I told Barbara, and it was something Barbara had been thinking about forever. Yeah. And your husband was like, you guys need to do this, because we would just hang out and talk about child development and things we would do in different situations. And our views are so radical. He kept saying, people need to hear this.
Yeah.
So it kind of clicked, and we're like, all right, well, now's the time. So I was like, I told Barbara, I was like, I need you to run the podcast, because I don't have time to do it. I'll do it with you, but you manage all the other stuff. And that's what we did.
Yeah. And I always wanted to do something like that. I mean, especially since I've had kids, I feel pretty passionately about respectful parenting. And I think that more people who know about it will, I don't know. I don't even think a lot of people understand it. And so I just want to get the word out. People need to hear about what respectful parenting is, because I think people have an idea of it.
Yeah.
They don't really, they might make associations that are not correct. I mean, a lot of people think that it's permissive parenting, and
it breaks my heart when I see people parent in a different way. And what I see is a child who's misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so sad, because children are the most vulnerable among us, and they need help. They need our support and help. They need someone in their corner. And so yeah, I've always been passionate about that ever since I had my oldest.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this is, if I were to start another business, I would start a business like surrounding parenting, because that is actually my passion. That's something I know something about and care about deeply.
For a long time too, I wanted, I think before Alex started Mantifly, I was trying to talk her into doing a school.
I've been wanting to open a school, and
she had wanted to do that, but then she kind of got sidetracked and whatever. I'm a mom, busy mom, so I'm not going to do it on my own. And podcasting seemed like a decent, I guess, compromise for both of our
right. Because opening a school
desires.
takes so much capital.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, and we're nonprofit, and it's probably not going to like pay the bills. So especially in California, where everything is so expensive.
Right.
So yeah, I that's actually one reason I started Mantifly, because I thought to myself, this is such a good idea. This needs to exist. Maybe I was hoping it would become a what's the word? Gosh, I can't think of it right now. Hold on. When you receive an income, passive income. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. So I was hoping it would become a passive income and allow me to open a school. Like that is one of the reasons I started. I was like, this is one of those ideas that can make me realize my dream of eventually opening a school and helping kids and adopting more kids and spreading the word of respectful parenting.
How beauty can lead to teaching.
Right
on. Why don't I'll let each one of you give me an example. But yeah, why don't we give us an example of what respectful parenting, like an example of what that would look like in any given situation.
Yeah. So, kind of in a broad situation, I would say it would be looking at the whole child as an individual and an autonomous being. And it's, I think we oftentimes think of kids as something that we can like mold. Like we need to educate our children. We need to form them into good human beings. We need to teach them morality. Well, kids actually kind of come out with all of that on their own. And if we kind of give them boundaries in their world and keep them safe, they become their own amazing human beings. So I think something I see a lot of people do is trying to like teach their children lessons, very specific lessons. Like they try and teach these moral lessons out of, whatever, toy taking. And, that's the sort of thing that as a 2-year-old, they don't know yet that someone, even if they're taking out of someone else's hands, they're not, they can't see through another person's eyes, another child's eyes. So when the other child's crying because they took a toy, they don't really understand that it was their action to begin with. So respectful parenting is really seeing the child developmentally where they are and meeting their needs at that moment. And if they're not able to I feel like so often we expect children to perform, right? We expect them to perform for us.
We think that they come out. We think they come out a blank slate, and that we can, like you said, form them into something. And I would say that is wrong. Yeah. We also believe that we need to. I think a lot of people believe that children need to be taught morality, which is one thing you said. And again, I think that's wrong. I think we need to be their guides. The best thing we can do for them is model the people we want them to be, because that's going to speak more than anything else. They're going to see right through anything else. If we are one thing And we know that that's not the best way to live. And we're telling them to live another way. Children are smart. They're going to see that. They're going to know it's bullshit. They're not.
Well, they see hypocrisy.
They see hypocrisy. Yeah. How often do we tell them not to take toys from other kids' hands, but we take things out of our children's hands all the time? And so to expect them not to do that.
I mean, it depends. If my kid's running around with the taser, I'm not taking it away. I'm getting ready to laugh.
right. Yeah, and I'm not saying
there's safety issues.
There's safety issues, yeah. And I'm certainly not saying that never take anything out that your child picks up. You know, of course, there's reasons that we need to take things out of our children's hands, but you know, trying to tell your child to never take something out of another kid's hands, that's hypocrisy. That's not. You don't need to teach that lesson right in that moment. We can respectfully take a pair of scissors from our child, while at the same time respectfully handle our child taking a scoop from another kid. There's an approach there that's not just never do X. Right?
I would say it's about seeing children as whole people, while also recognizing that they have limitations. Right. So their brains are not fully developed yet. They do not have the impulse control that we have. They do not have the experiences we have, and to treat them respectfully. So I believe that we should go into it with giving them the benefit of the doubt, looking at behavior as communication, looking at it in as positive a light or as neutral of a light as possible, and then going from there. So it's really a mind shift. It's really a philosophy shift, because too many people, I feel like too many people look at behavior, and behavior is the end goal. And I think that's wrong. We need to stop that, because behavior there's always a root cause for the behavior. So I want to address what's underneath the behavior.
Well, I'm going to push back on you a little when you say that they don't have impulse control like we do, because I just watched a bunch of adult children burn down half the country for a year. So we got some issues with the adults too.
Right.
Yeah, we all struggle with impulse control.
And that's a good reason why we should give kids the benefit of the doubt, right? Because the adults don't even have impulse control all the time. Like, we lose our shit. We have problems. Sorry, I just said a curse word. Yeah, so we have a hard enough time. That's not even
a curse word on this channel.
Oh, good. Okay. We have a hard enough time composing ourselves all the time, and yet we're expecting like a 5-year-old to do it. That doesn't make any sense.
Especially a 5-year-old that's having to live their entire, life and day in and out to our agenda. So imagine that you are having to follow another person around all day long, following instructions. Plenty of jobs like that. But there's a lot of people who might even be able to relate to that. And then they get home and they just want to sit down, not have anyone talk to them, maybe grab a beer, whatever. Your children
they don't have that luxury.
Yeah, they don't have someone to sit down and get home, aside from really their caretakers and parents. When they explode and they're crying and having a really big meltdown, it's because you're the only person they feel comfortable doing that around, and they can't always bottle it up and hold it in until they get home from the grocery store. I would say they shouldn't.
That would be unhealthy.
Yeah, and they shouldn't. Yes.
So one big thing of respectful parenting is helping kids deal with these big emotions. So being able to label them and then give them healthy outlets. Never shame them for having emotional outbursts.
Yeah, they don't get to decide.
I just gave my son a punching bag.
Yeah,
that's great.
That works.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Nice little outlet. That's great.
How old is your son?
16.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. I've got a 16-year-old son, a 14-year-old daughter, and an 8-year-old daughter.
Oh, awesome.
That's great.
That is so cool.
The daughter, I'm like, I don't know. Like, your mom will help you. I don't understand.
You can try
the 14-year-old, because I don't know how she's too prissy to punch things. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just get her a mirror and she can scream into it. That seems to work. She likes to scream.
Yeah. Well, I think also kids are really good at figuring out what their own stress reliefs are. So, we all deal with our anxiety and stresses in different ways. And so I guess that's something to recognize that she's probably figuring that out herself and may not need you to interfere at all. Maybe she does. Maybe she wants to talk to you or her mom or whoever.
Yeah, I would say it's offering
my
empathy.
suggestion's always, let's go blow shit up with guns.
It sounds fun.
Does that help?
Yeah.
It does for me.
It does for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
You know, different
goodness.
for everyone, of course.
I
Yeah.
like to, the way I've kind of went with my children is I attempt to educate them at just random things. So it's not like, you know, do the dishes or whatever. It's like, you know, try to get my son, hey, you know, come learn how to change oil in the pickup, learn how to change tire, that kind of stuff. And I've done that with my daughter as well, like taught her how to do that kind of stuff. Not necessarily because she was interested. I know that she was kind of like, oh, gross. But I want her to have the ability to be able to do those types of things and not have to rely on other people. So how does your respectful parenting play into that situation when it's an educational purpose that will better them in the future?
Yeah, I think it's tricky when it comes to I'm trying to think here. So it's also tricky when you start talking about older kids. I think we can ask them more of them when it comes to things like teaching them how to, say, change the oil or, you know how to even check the oil. I remember I was in college and I had a friend who was driving around in her car for a super long time with her oil light on. And I got in the car with her and I was like, your light's on. And she was like, yeah, I know. I don't know what to do. And I was like, okay, let's go to the gas station. I taught her how to check her oil in her car, put oil in there. And I was just like, you're going to be like stranded on the side of the road. But so, you know, I mean, there certainly are things that we want to be able to give our children so they know how to do things and they don't get stranded on the road in the middle of nowhere. But, right. And older kids might be more receptive to understanding. You could communicate why it's important to learn these skills, and they may not be too happy about learning it. Maybe they are super excited, enthusiastic about learning it, but you know, comes the time that their check engine light comes on, they might be super grateful that somebody showed them how to do that. When it comes to younger kids, it's trickier because we can't just force education into young kids. They're not going to retain information if they're not receptive to it. And that's where it starts getting really kind of hard because parents want their children to be, quote, well educated. But what we oftentimes fail to recognize is what are they learning by us not interfering, and when we interfere, what are they not learning because we're interfering? Yeah. And when a child comes with an interest to us, we can feed on that, and they're going to retain information and learn so much better. So yeah, I wouldn't teach like a 5-year-old how to do anything on their car, but you know, a teenager, I can see the utility in trying to convince them it's an important skill to have.
Right. And I would say they'll be self-motivated to learn it when you give them the reason why. And if they're not, then now's not the time.
Right.
So,
well, based on your entire philosophy here, you guys must absolutely love the public school system.
Right? Yeah. So awesome. It's so great.
Best thing ever. No.
Absolutely.
We need to give teachers more money.
We need to fire teachers.
Yeah, obviously, yes. I think I actually believe we need to abolish the public school system completely. And I actually don't agree with a lot of the even private schools.
Yeah.
But I think they need to exist, private schools, and yes.
What do you think about the education pods? We've seen a bunch of those spring up all over the country. This, you know, obviously over the last year because unions are an absolute disaster and made it where no one had to go back to work. So I don't know if you've witnessed any of those Zoom classes, but my God, that's just, it's like, wow. But I like the pods. I like that. I mean, the unfortunate thing to them is that there's a lot of parents that even going together with their neighbors and friends, they probably really couldn't afford it. Which I like Corey DeAngela's outlook on that, you know, that we need to fund the student, not the system. And then they could afford the pods. What are your thoughts on those?
I think it's great. I think the pods are great. That's the one thing that I think has come out of all of this. And early on, I said if we come out of this with more parents waking up to the
terrible the education
system is, then that's something
it's the
that's
silver
great.
lining of all this.
And I
horrible.
It's crazy. I think that there's something like 2% of children were homeschooled prior, and now it's something like 10%. And I might be a little bit off. It might be like 9 or 8.5%. But it's been a huge increase where a lot of parents are saying, hold on a second. They've witnessed what's going on in these Zoom classes, and they're going, no, I'm not going to put my kid back into that, even if it is open, even if I'm going to send my kid to a physical school. I see that this is not working out. And it's not. I mean, the education system has just been so it's not good. It's not good for the mental health of our young children. I mean, it's why we're seeing self-harm, eating disorders, all of
that. Teen suicide. I actually think that's one of the reasons we see so many school shootings is because we put these kids under tremendous amounts of pressure. Lockout days, what is it? Drew Hancock has a great video about how public schools are prisons for kids.
They are prisons.
They essentially are.
Yeah, it's awful. My experience was horrible. I have a lot of trauma.
Yeah,
and I don't want to put my kids through that.
No. So these pods, what parents are doing in trying to form little pods and homeschool more, I think you're going to be able to meet the needs of each individual student better if you form something like that. If you have the luxury of being able to get the kid out of the classroom, self-directed learning, we're going to have smarter, healthier, more well-rounded people in our future if we do that more. Right. And it's shocking to me that, even the mindset of parents is like, they get so caught up in this, well, my kid needs to, get well educated. They need to get the A's. They need to get into
what's crazy is
college.
They say they need to socialize. And what's funny about that is schools, you don't get to socialize in a natural way.
You're forced. Because you're not even allowed to talk.
Exactly.
I've always hated public schools. My children do not need to ask permission to use the restroom. That's ridiculous. That's communistic behavior. No, I just looked this up for you, Barbara, and before the COVID pandemic started, 1.6% of children were homeschooled. As schools have begun to open, the numbers vary by state, but the nationwide average is 18% of children are now homeschooled. New Mexico is the highest in that, and we just reopened our schools like a month ago, and we are 41% of our students are now homeschooled.
Well, congratulations. New Mexico sounds like they know what's going on.
I think New Mexico, the people, it's like most states. It's Albuquerque and Santa Fe is very blue. The rest of the state's very, red or libertarian. And I think they watched this and went, yeah, well, that was fucking stupid. We ain't doing that anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I do like the idea of the pods. I do want to find a way. I look at it like this. If your kid's not going to school, you shouldn't have to pay property taxes. Because that's what the majority of property taxes, they say, is for. Well, my kid's not in there. I'm not paying it. And then I have money that I can put my kids in a pot. You know what I mean? That doesn't really work for tenants or, for renters or whatever. But I think that we could find a way to fund the student and not the institution. And that would help out even help the poors. They could take that money and put their kids in a pod. But my entire life, all I've ever heard about public education is, well, the classes are too big, or, there's too many students and blah, blah, blah in each class or whatever. And they never have enough money. But their funding is just went up and up and up and up and up. It's a monopoly, and it's got to get busted up. I think I'm with you. I say just abolish the entire thing, all of it. Just make it go away. Private communities can work together and see what they want to do. Individual communities. I like that idea. So, give us another example. As far as respectful parenting, children are going to test boundaries. It's normal. It's natural. part of
healthy.
growing up.
That's
and
great,
healthy. I
right?
agree with you on that. How would
That's what more people should be doing now.
yeah. The adults should be testing boundaries.
Yes.
But some of those boundaries can be very dangerous. So
Yes.
how do you look at that in a response? Because obviously, as you said before, our number one priority should be the safety of the child, and at times you even have to protect them from themselves. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, give me your thoughts on that.
So I would say that when you have young children, because a lot of it, I think it starts when they're young, and it's best if you establish a respectful relationship with them right away and never turn into an adversarial relationship. So once you start using rewards and punishment, then you're going to turn that relationship into an adversarial one where it's us against them, and you'll promote sneaky behavior and all kinds of things. So if you never do that and you start young, then you keep them safe. So if they're starting to do something that is unsafe, you only make limits that you can physically hold. So instead of saying like, don't do that, you need to stop now, those are not really limits, because the kid is like, oh, but I'm still doing it. Like, you're not doing anything about it. That's weird. And I think to a kid, to a young child, that's very unsettling, because then they're realizing they're doing something, they're upsetting their caretaker. They might be doing something potentially dangerous. This is not a position that we should put kids in. And so I say, if there's something that your kid is doing and you don't want them to do, you need to figure out what your limit is going to be. And that limit has to be something that you have control over. And then you have to do it. You have to follow through. You can say, stop doing that. You can give them the opportunity to stop. But if they do not stop, then you have to recognize that they're young. They don't understand. They don't have the impulse control yet. So we need to physically go in there and help them stop. Mm-hmm. So
that's when we get a hard time and lock them in the basement. Got it.
No,
I wouldn't recommend that.
Definitely don't do that. No, because when you hold a limit, it should always be done with empathy and love.
Like,
because they don't understand they don't even sometimes don't understand like why you stop them, right? And so they might be crying and upset. A lot of times they are, and it's just, you can just say like, I can't let you, do XYZ. Yeah. I hear you're upset. You are really sad. You wanted to do that. So you can empathize with them and make them know that you understand what they're feeling, validate those feelings, but also still not let them do it. Right. And it creates this amazing bond. And it gets to be, as they grow, they trust you more. And so when you say, don't do that, they know, one, that there's probably a good reason, because you always have good reasons to stop them. And two, that you are going to physically stop. You're going to make it not possible for them to do that.
And I feel like that's also very contingent on making sure that you don't set up arbitrary limits, because we can stop our children from doing a lot of things that's not actually really that dangerous or hazardous. I've seen parents on playgrounds stop their child from like getting on a playground equipment because it was maybe a young infant that's trying to climb up on something that's like 6 inches off the ground, and they're like, oh, that doesn't look safe, and then they're like, that's not safe for you, that doesn't look safe, and they'll take their child off. It's like, well, your child, what's the worst that can happen in that circumstance? They might fall 6 inches, but there's a learning experience there. There's so much that they're learning about being able to move their body. So when
my situation is, I'm just gonna start filming, so when they do fall, I can laugh over and over and over.
I would not recommend that.
I wouldn't recommend that either.
But okay, you can film it and maybe laugh to yourself, but don't show the kid. And maybe years later.
Years and years later.
Don't put it on YouTube.
Yeah. So I think that's like one thing that a lot of parents got to keep in mind, that is the limit that you're setting for just control's sake, because when you control for control's sake, then your kid's going to be more willing and more likely to continually push those limits. But when they recognize that the limits that you're setting are truly essential ones, then when they get older, they understand, one, that you're going to follow through, and two, that it's important. So I just wanted that be as a caveat, because often we just see parents. I see parents all the time taking things from their kids, moving their children, trying to redirect, when it's like, and at a certain point they have to learn themselves, what their actions what happens when they do something and make mistakes. And there are really dangerous mistakes that we need to stop them, but there are other ones that are just like uncomfortable, maybe awkward, things that like we don't really want our children to have to experience, but like they probably, they're going to fall. They're going to fall sometimes. They're going to make.
So to put just perspective, because my audience at least, they need perspective. They're not the brightest. So we're going to go with, you can let them climb up on playground equipment, but probably don't let them climb in an oven.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
There you go.
Well, and also another thing I was going to say is a lot of times kids do things because they want to experiment. And for whatever reason, we don't want them to do it in that situation. For example, like spitting, right? Spitting watermelon seeds out. Like, I don't want that to happen inside. And this did happen with my kids. They wanted to spit watermelon seeds. I was like, that's a lot of fun. Let's do that outside. So a lot of it is, what are you trying to do? Whatever they're trying to do, you take it seriously. Their play is very important. And when you show them that you value it, then I think it also creates an amazing connection with them and can help with parenting stuff later on. So if they're trying to do something and you say, no, absolutely not, think to yourself, okay, or ask them, what are you trying to do? Like, why are you trying to do this? And the answer might surprise you, and you can come up with a creative solution of how they can get that somewhere else. Okay. So, we can spit watermelon seeds outside. That's great. Let's do that. Yeah. So, a lot of it is just like.
Then apparently I've just been respectfully parenting by accident. Now I know what to call it. So cool. Now so I like where your head's at in this, but I'm going to say that there has been a massive failure of parents in the last year. My kid is not wearing a fucking mask for that. And they're not getting a Fauci ouchie unless they want it. Like, it's retarded. Like, why the hell would I do that? I know Joe Rogan's all up in he's in this shit right now or whatever, because he said things that perfectly made sense. And
I haven't heard it yet. This is the Dave Smith interview. I've been wanting to listen to it.
Yeah, they were talking about the kids wearing masks and them getting vaccinated, and he was like, if a 21-year-old person that's healthy was to ask me like, oh, should I get the Fauci ouchie? His answer would be no. Why? It's retarded. You don't need it. You know what I mean? But of course now the I don't even know what to call it now. The virus religion cult thing that is like coming after him. And I'm like, I don't understand what in the hell mind virus infected our country with this shit. But I see this stuff. Michigan just passed an ordinance now that toddlers as young as 2 have to wear masks.
Oh,
and I'm like, this is child abuse. This is child
okay. That's
abuse.
what I've been saying.
Yeah, I agree.
3 children. I just read an article. 3 children died in China doing PE with masks on in school, and then they lifted the mask mandate. So in China, they lifted the mask mandates because 3 children died. I met someone last week who said his nephew, I think it was wearing a mask at the beach, playing really hard, ended up vomiting, had to go to the hospital because he wasn't able to get the oxygen he needs, because kids don't know how to pay attention to their bodies the same way we do. They just want to have fun. They're playing, they're ignoring the signals. And it is child abuse. I think it's wrong. We need to unmask our kids. The thing that brings me hope though is there was a video going around Twitter today. I think it was in Arizona, where a bunch of parents got together and they were like, no, and they replaced the board. They replaced the school board and voted in new members, and then eradicated the mask mandate for school.
Good. Yeah. I'm really I'm hoping that one of the outcomes of this, I'm a libertarian anarchist. Like, I will vote for libertarians because they're way better than the uniparty to me, or Republicans, whatever you want to call them. But I'm really, really, really hoping that a lot of people that are even the moderate, more centrist people will see this and they're like, we're throwing everybody out. It doesn't matter. We're just throwing them all out, and we're going to get new people that aren't going to, pull this bullshit. Like my county commissioners are terrified of me now because I have every intention of getting them all replaced for being cowards. Because our governor was like, well, you have to shut everything down. And they did. And I'm like, tell her no. Just tell her no. And they go, well, I mean, where are we going to get our state funding? Here's a thought. Don't send it to her in the first place, idiot. Just keep it. Just do it. What's she going to do? You know what I mean? What's she going to do? Honestly, what's she going to do? She's going to send state troopers. We have a sheriff's department. It'll be fine. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm done with this nonsense. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. It has been ridiculous. And I don't know how people put up with it.
It breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. I mean, not just the physical. I mean, I hadn't heard those stories about kids having trouble with actually wearing masks. I mean, it makes sense because kids don't pay attention to their bodies. But just, I have a 2-year-old and not even 1-year-old yet. She's 9 months old. And I can't even imagine what we learn through seeing people's faces, being able to read social cues and seeing this much of a person's face. Your entire life.
They're not learning that stuff.
They're not. And they get to see sure, my face, but how do you learn about of course I'm going to have a different interaction with my children and family's going to have a different interaction with my children than strangers on the street. And I don't know. It just, even watching me interact with people when I go to the store and I'm wearing a mask with another person and my child's looking at me in the face and then the other person in the face and they're not seeing the whole face. It's kind of
it's dehumanizing.
It's totally dehumanizing. And it's like this giant social experiment and we don't know what the consequences are going to be.
That's what it is. I keep telling people on Twitter, they'll say stuff like, I'm going to get the Fauci ouchie. I did my research. And I'm like, you are the research. Yeah. If you know that and you're okay with it, cool. I don't care. You do you. But you can't. I did my research. No, you didn't. You are the research.
Well, it's actually really hard to find research on this now.
Because everyone censors the crap out of everything you say.
Yeah. And I've been compiling pretty good. I've been digging deep in the internet, and I started looking into RNA vaccines well before it was even approved. This was right when everything got started. This was a year ago. I remember driving to my sister's house, and I was like, okay, this is really interesting. We're talking about this, but this is not approved technology. This has been in development for a super long time, but there's reasons it hasn't been approved. And I remember.
I'm going to push back a little. A lot of the reason it hadn't got approved is because the FDA is. Well, they're a government bureaucracy. So.
Yes, they are. They are. And so there absolutely is this whole other issue on that end. But, there were, in their own terms, legitimate safety concerns. And so I'm not saying that it's not absolutely not safe. I mean, it could end up that it's a super duper duper safe vaccine and everyone's going to be totally fine and we should all get
I don't
vaccinated.
think they believe that or they wouldn't tell you still have to wear a mask.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they believe it entirely. And I'm not sure that that the evidence that does exist, but when I was doing that research a year ago, I came across lots of articles that had a lot of caution. And when I go on today to try and Google that, those articles, some of them have actually been amended. Not just that they're not there, this has been updated since April 2021. I'm like, research, you can redo research. You can't update research. So I'm just like, that's suspicious to me. I find it all very suspect. I'm not so sure that the best interest of us is in mind. And I'm super cautious when people say that they've looked into all the research.
Well, I find it funny that
read the articles that I read a year ago.
Oh, no, I almost guarantee they haven't. But I find it humorous. I used to make fun of the MAGA people, the trust the plan people. I'd make fun of them all the time. And now I make fun of the trust the science people because it's a cult. It's all the same thing. Like, there is no science involved anymore. I don't know if you know who Jason Stapleton is. He lives out there in California with you guys. He's a marketing and sales expert. And he's really, really, really good at it. But he did a show. He has a show called Wealth, Power, and Influence, And it's essentially to teach people that the only way to really be free is to just earn as much money as you can so that you're never stuck anywhere. You can just bounce. If shit gets wonky, you're just like, oh, well, this sucks. I'm out, you know. But he said today, like, and he even cited a couple federal laws or whatever, but he proved that Dr. Fauci is a liar. One way or another, doesn't know what he's lying about exactly, but it's all that he just laid out all these things that he said, even over the last week. And he's like, this can't all be true at the same time. Just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like they've been doing that for a year.
Yeah.
They're just bouncing around, changing their mind. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And I think it's 100% just about control. See how far you can push them before they snap. But that's a kind of dangerous game to play when in a country of 300 million people.
Yeah, I don't think that they're like trying to see where point of snap is so much, because that is too dangerous. I think there's just something a little bit more malicious going on, and I can't pinpoint it either. I'm not sure, but I think if they really knew, yeah, it's just I don't know. I think it's like this breaking of this like small, it's not so much waiting to watch us snap. I think it's this like small breaking of our will over time. And then they can give us a little bit back. And then next time they can tip away a little bit more. And then they can give us a little bit back. And I think it's going to be this game I think they've always been playing this game. And I think that it's, they don't want to lose their power. So they're not willing to risk it. They really thought that we were going to like riot up against them. Then they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. And they're proven right. We're not. I will say this. I know a lot of people said that after Old and Chief got elected, that's when a lot of the states started relaxing their stuff. And a lot of people were saying, well, they wanted to get the Cheeto dictator out and get Old and Chief in there. And I think maybe there's something to that. But I will also say that even before Old and Chief had been inaugurated, and there was the Capitol Hill riot, they also started to back off then. So I think that actually terrified the shit out of them. Because I think they were like, for the first time, like, oh no, like they're angry. People are mad.
Yeah, well, and it's which side of the aisle was mad enough to riot, which is something that even the DC police came out and said, well, yeah, I mean, we didn't have that many cops there. We didn't need them. Well,
right. They
never had needed them. So it makes sense they wouldn't. That's just how they'd assume things. But, I mean, calling it an insurrection is just... I promise you, every single person at that rally owns guns, and they didn't find a single gun there. It wasn't an insurrection. You know what I mean? It was a riot. And it was a riot that got Antifa to laugh at them. Like, that's not a riot. You guys suck at this.
Right. I mean, I saw some videos where the guards that were, like, guarding the front doors, like, moved aside and moved to the
fences and stuff.
Barriers are like, all right, just go on in, I guess. Well, yeah. And then people are like, all right, cool. And then Dave Smith talked about this when they were in there. They like followed the rules of the velvet rope.
Oh, they didn't like go beyond boundaries and everything.
They walked in there. It was just what did Dave call it? He called it an unguided tour. That's basically
unguided tour. They got an unguided tour.
Well, they're in there taking like selfies with the cops too, so it's like it's pretty hard to call this thing an insurrection, especially considering the only person that was legitimately killed from this situation was Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by a Capitol Police officer.
Right.
In the neck. She was unarmed, but no one cares about that apparently.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, how's things going out there in California? You guys starting to open up?
Yeah, I don't know. I want to get out of the state so bad, but I can't.
Yeah, it's starting to open up here and there. It's honestly, I don't get out much like I used to because I've got 2 young children, but I think it is.
So my sister's in Winters, which is like a small farm town, outside of the Sacramento area.
I'm lucky enough to be out of the city. So I'm out of the city where it's really, I think if you're in the Bay Area, it's really bad. I think it's still locked down. Well, they might be starting to open up now, but during all of it, it was very strict there. And
I don't think so. I don't think Nancy Pelosi's needed her hair done, so they're not going to open up.
Salons are open. That is happening, but like like for example, I've been working up the courage to go into places without a mask, and I am afraid to do
That
it.
is so sad that you just said that.
Isn't that
Here
sad?
in this
It's
free
sad.
nation, I'm working up the courage to take off a mask.
I'm working up the courage to walk into a store like a normal person, like I was able to do 2 years ago without any problem, not even thinking about it. And now the idea brings me anxiety. It's
I just
insane.
don't go into the stores. That's what I
So-
I've been to a
so-
store in a year anyway.
I'm afraid to do that where I live in Walnut Creek, but I
Yeah.
have done it in winters. And when I go visit my sister, like along the way in the more rural areas, I'll do it, but I'm still afraid to do it. And because it's just, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get shit. Like people are going to say something. I don't like confrontation.
That's going to happen. I guarantee you.
Yes. And so far I've done it to 4 different places and I've gotten pushback only once.
Well, where I live, the state still has a mask mandate, and the corporations, like any corporate store, will say you have to wear one. But all of our mom and pops are like, do whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. So,
Yeah.
But my favorite thing about the mask thing, once restaurants started to open, was you have to wear it to the table. But then you have to wear
Right.
it. And I'm like, this is not science, people. This is not. You people are insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And especially, I don't know if you know anything about aerospace engineering. I'm going to assume probably not.
No.
You, the airplanes having you wear a mask is literally the dumbest shit ever. It has nothing to do with virus. All of their air is recirculated through a biometric filter. So it's literally designed so that if someone was to release like SARS gas in there, it would get sucked up into the filters and no one would die from it. So
that's
interesting.
great. So
Well, it
airplanes
seems-
are like the safest place.
Safest
we should-
place.
Yeah.
I've heard them that they're supposed to be very safe. And what's funny is I don't know anything about airplanes, but early on when people were flying and talking about all of this and wearing masks, in my head I thought that's the silliest thing ever, because in my mind I was like, it's an airplane. If somebody sneezes in the front row, that air is in the back. A mask isn't going to stop you. But it's exactly the opposite. The air is actually so efficiently filtered that it's not an issue. But it's like, it's one or the other, right? I mean, you're either breathing each other's air and there's no preventing that, or
it's not just a little germ tunnel,
right.
Like that. If you want that, you got to go to the hospital.
It does feel like a germ tunnel, though, because every single time I've ever flown, I always end up getting a cold. But it's probably because I'm staying up super late and I'm not taking care of my body. And then I'm also traveling, going outside of my home. And
well, that could be from touching surfaces and then touching your face.
Probably.
Like,
I mean,
I'm
a filthy person. So I guess that's why I get sick when I'm on airplanes, I guess.
See,
I don't know.
I don't get sick because, I like play in dirt like a child. So, that's helpful. I fix my own crap. So I raise pigs and chickens and all kinds of shit out here. So, I'm always around a bunch of filthy shit, which is good for your immune system. So let's go to that.
Hot there for them? Doesn't it get so hot there? Huh?
What?
I don't know. I never thought of livestock in New Mexico because it gets so hot there.
It's a huge ranching and farming community.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
No, they sweat. They're fine.
They sweat. They're fine. All right. You give them shade and water.
Yeah, they got shade, water, and then you just soak them down with a hose once in a while. They love that. Scratch their back with a rake. That's what pigs enjoy. That's their life. Awesome. So as far as in your situation, okay, one of the things that drives me insane is parents that won't let their kids get dirty or play outside.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they are, basically at this point, they're developing little monkeys. They need to be outside. They need to play in dirt for several reasons. But the most important reason is that it builds their immune system. Being exposed to all of that builds their immune system and makes them healthier as their immune system a lot stronger and healthier when they're older.
Yes.
I'm assuming this has got to irritate you when parents are like that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Huge. Yes, absolutely.
Basically, again, it just seems like such an arbitrary. I guess that the parents are worried about their kid getting sick from dirt or something. And
Well, I think a lot of parents don't want to clean it up later. So they're thinking like, that's a mess. I don't want to deal with
dirt. Isn't going to be the
clothes.
only thing that's going to keep. I mean, kids are just like constantly snotting, and
but
like,
some parents are really weird about that. Like, I worked at a preschool for a while. So my son went to a co-op preschool where we had to volunteer a certain amount of hours of time for me to send him there. It was awesome. It was an amazing experience. I loved it. But there were some parents that were more like fastidious than others, and they would freak out if their kid like got dirty. Mm-hmm. And it blew my mind, because it's like they need to do it for play. They need to do it for their immune system. There's a lot of sensory things that are going on. They need to know this what is it? I forgot again. When you do something, cause and effect. Right? You need to allow them to experience that. Yeah. So they jump in a puddle and then their feet are wet. And if you just keep telling them, no, don't jump in that puddle, you're not allowed to jump in that puddle, then it's going to take them a longer time to learn it. Like, you need them to actually experience it and get like discomfort from wet, cold feet. And that's how they learn. And then
the sensory, I mean, that kids learn a lot about their environment just from exploring it. So if we don't let them dig in the dirt, if we don't let them get outside and, mulch and pick up bugs and, I just planted our garden about 2 weeks ago with my son. He's 2 years old, and he helped me dig holes and plant plants. And he loves worms. He'll pick them out of the ground and kiss them. He kisses them.
At least he's not eating them.
He doesn't. He's asked. He's asked me. He's come up and he's going, eat? And I go,
eat?
No, worms aren't
I would have told him
eat.
yes. I would have told him yes.
You would have told him
yes. Do it.
See, they're not good to eat, and he's
no, that's when you just tell him, you just tell your kid at that point, like, you don't want to live in a pod, you don't want to eat the bugs. It's fine.
You don't want to eat the bugs. Yeah, but it's so important.
I agree with you. And, I think a lot of it comes, I grew up on a ranch in Utah. I still own the ranch, but it's about an 8,000 acre ranch that I got when my father passed away. And that's where we grew up. And I mean, we had cattle, we had chickens, we had horses, we had all that. And we were always out. I mean, we were outside. We didn't have video games and any of that shit, I think we actually owned a Nintendo, but I don't know where. I don't remember playing it that much. We were outside a lot. Well, plus we had to work because it was a farm, and so it's like, okay, well, work, like that was, which I look back at and I go, well, that's a good thing, because it taught me and my brothers a very strong work ethic. A 14-hour day for us when we were 13, 14 years old was very normal in the summer when we're harvesting and stuff. But one of the things there is that I even meet people my age now, they'll be 38 or whatever, and they've never planted a garden. They wouldn't even know how, and they're like, and I'm like, what the hell did you do when you were a kid? You know what I mean? It's crazy to me. Like, I don't understand. So I don't want my kids to be like that.
No, and it's shocking too, because it's getting harder and harder to have those experiences. Just because you say you grew up, maybe you had a Nintendo, and we had a Nintendo too, but I don't think we got it until we were older, and
we weren't allowed to play it.
We weren't allowed to play it all the time. Yeah. And
then we lived in a neighborhood that had a lot of kids, and there was woods at the end of the neighborhood, and we were allowed to roam free. So this is one thing that I think is really important. Kids nowadays are not allowed unsupervised time. And I think unsupervised time is important for development. When you're being watched,
I wasn't supposed to let my kids just run around by themselves? Because
no, you are.
No,
you are. Yeah. But I think that is, but unfortunately that is not normal nowadays. So
people not only for the parent actually, and I worry about this. One of the reasons I actually moved to the town that I moved into here It's a really, really friendly, great family community. But one thing that's a huge problem is parents that even want to let their child out, like go ahead and walk to the park and, you know, come back before sundown or whatever it is.
Right.
Of course, there's ages that's appropriate. So often parents worry, and it's a legitimate concern, that if their child is found without an adult with them, then other parents think that you're being completely neglectful. They think that you're hurting your child. You're risking their life. You could have lost your child. Like all these horrible things, and that's something that's really
hurting
different.
kids.
It is hurting kids, and it's different now than it was when we were kids. But if you live and thank goodness we live in a decent community where I trust my neighbors. I trust my neighbors to be able to see my child, and if they are concerned about my child, they'll help them. They won't blame me. You know,
Right.
It's just.
I worried. The last place I lived was Palo Alto, and I lived across the street from a park. And my kids right now are 6 and 8. When we moved in there, my kids were 4 and 2, right? Or maybe because Jamie turned 5 when we moved in there, so he was 4, and then Robin would have been probably 3.
Okay,
so 3 and 4. And I worried not so much about their safety. I worried about busybody neighbors.
Busybody Karens.
Right.
Yeah.
Calling the police. And what's funny is my house was literally across the street from the park, so I could see it. So when we first moved, I didn't let them go alone, but a year after living there, I let them actually walk to the end of the street where there was a crosswalk, walk across, and stay there by themselves. And I could hear and see them, but other people didn't know. I did get some nasty looks sometimes when I was at the park with my kids, and they were like, "Mom, I want a blah blah," and I was like, "All right, I'll go home and go get it." And then I leave, and people sometimes would freak out, and I thought that was hilarious because it was literally across the street from the park. And if I had said like, "I'll go to the car," I feel like they would have
been fine
with it. But because it was home, it was like, "Oh my God, you're going home! Like you can't leave it." And it's like, well, no.
I feel like that's a lot of that's community based because, like, and especially. The smaller the community and the redder the community, you don't have that issue. Like, you see kids riding by on their bicycles all the time, and playing in the park by themselves. No adult in the park at all, and they're all just in there playing, having a good time, kind of like when we were kids. My brothers and I, each one of us is 14 months apart, almost exactly.
Wow.
And so. We used to go camping when my youngest brother was 10. Youngest brother from that fault. We have another younger brother, but we'd go camping by ourselves, at 10, 11, and 12 years old. Just the three of us would go, and we'd be gone for days. And my father was like, whatever. Like, he knew we were fine. You know what I mean? So
awesome.
Yeah,
I do worry about that.
I do too, and I think that speaks a lot to even this parenting philosophy, which I think a lot of parents forget, is trust. I think we have to trust in our children, and your parents obviously gave you a lot of trust. And I think when we don't give our children arbitrary rules, we have to trust them that they're going to make good decisions, and we have to make sure that we understand that when they're having frustrations and issues with our rules, that that's legitimate and that's okay for them to be upset. But trust is what it really comes down to. And I don't know at what point we stop trusting children, but they are so competent and they're so capable.
John Benet Ramsey. That's when it started. When she disappeared in Colorado, that's when you started to see all these communities just start to lose their shit. I'm not saying it's her fault, obviously. I'm just saying that's when I can track it in my head to when you started to hear the stories about, these kids were playing at the park by themselves, and now the parents might lose their kids. And that's when you started to see that nonsense, was right after that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it kind of doesn't make sense because she was taken from her home.
Right.
And come on. We all know that someone she knew did it.
Yeah.
Statistically, that's true. Statistically, most kidnappings are by family or friends of the family, like someone the child knew.
Stranger danger was a giant waste of money because like 2% of children are actually taken by strangers.
Yep.
So they know the person.
I never told my kids stranger danger, and I hate when people say that because I believe most people are good and they want to help. And if my kid is ever in a situation where he can't find me and he needs help, I want him to be able to use his judgment and find a stranger that can help him. So what they say now, some of the things I've heard is like, find another mom, because statistically, women with children are probably more likely to help a child. So I've told my kids, if you're ever lost or you need help and you can't find me, find another mom and ask the other mom for help.
Yeah.
Most moms are gonna do everything they can to help that kid.
Yeah, I agree. That's I don't know. I did an actual podcast with my son. He's down in Arizona with his grandmother right now. And so on his 16th birthday, we actually did a show on my channel.
Wow.
So if you ever want to see how he's raised or what he turned into anyway.
I wanted to go back a little bit because we were talking about unsupervised time and how important it is. And when I worked at the preschool, we were required to take classes. And one of the classes I took was, I forget the name of it. I don't know. It was something. But we did this, what's it called? An experiment, not experiment, but an activity. And we asked everyone to draw a place that you remember very fondly from your childhood. So like if you can think of a place that when you think of your childhood, you remember very fondly.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you have one?
No, I just know the story. So I think
the story. Yeah. Do you have a place, Austin, that you can think of?
Yeah, it's called Secret Springs.
And what makes it special?
I don't know. There was a giant cave and a waterfall, and we used to go hang out and play in the pond behind the waterfall or the little pool area.
So what's interesting is when I did this, and there were about 30 other adults in the room, when we all drew these places, every single one of them was a place that kids could be away from adults and be private from adults. So some people drew like their kitchen table where they were under the kitchen table and they felt like they were hidden. Like one person drew a bush where they would go into the bush and hide. For me, it was the woods at the end of the block that I would go to play in. And so I think like when we rob kids of this experience, it's going to have horrible effects. I think it's very important that kids are allowed to be kids and have private time without adults, because they know when we're watching, and like you'll act different if you know there's a camera on you. It's the same thing.
I won't.
You don't?
No. You can just ask any one of my friends. Anyone? No, I won't. I'm the exact same person because I don't care. Like that's one of the best things about being raised the way I was I don't care. And so my son was raised the same way. My children have been like, you do you, just understand you're responsible for the repercussions of your actions.
Right.
But I'm not going to let people like, I'm not playing this weird game with people where it's like, he's different person around other. No, fuck that.
Not different person, but there's, you get more relaxed, or at least for me. Right. So you're thinking like, oh, how am I looking on camera? It's not about being a different person. I don't give a shit about that. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
I get your meaning. A lot of people are going to be.
That might not be.
A lot of people are going to be different. Yeah.
And there's certainly kids.
Yeah.
When they're being watched by their parents, sometimes kids just want time away from their parents, and of all ages.
They need that. Right. Not just that they want it, they need that. And they might not even know that they want it, because if they've never been granted it, then they don't know.
Right.
They won't know.
There was a woman, I don't remember her name. I know she wrote a book called Free Range, or Free Range Kids or something. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
And I remember her like they went after her because she let her son take the subway.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, but this is going to be one of the most well-adjusted kids in that city pretty soon. Like, you know what I mean? That I understood exactly what she was doing in that situation. You know what I mean? And maybe it's just because, again, I was raised in a way that it was like, hey, we're going to go camping this weekend, and my dad's like, have fun. Like, you know.
Yeah, we're so fixated on things.
The only thing my dad would ever say is make sure that you take the 357 because there were mountain lions and black bears.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you know, so at 10 years old, we're out there, like, got a 357 and we're camping by ourselves. So, I don't know. I'm way more like, I absolutely despise cities. I despise them. Why in God's name did that many people want to live that close to each other? I don't understand.
I like cities.
I'm not a big fan of cities.
Okay, I like them and I don't like them. So I really love restaurants and trying new foods and being able to walk outside.
Last year must have been awful.
Last year was horrible because not only was everything shut down and I moved to a new city where I didn't know anyone, I got divorced. And so like it was awful. Last year was horrible. Really bad year. Yes.
You know why divorce is so expensive? Because it's worth it. Don't tell my wife I said that. She doesn't watch this. I'm just kidding. Divorce sucks. I've been divorced and it was awful. Like I lost all my shit. She took all my stuff. All of it.
That's awful. Yeah.
That's all right. I don't care. I'm over it now.
Not an easy position, that's for sure.
No.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I guess we start over. That's how this works, you know. But yeah, I like the free range thing, and I like what you're talking about. I've never really heard it referred to that way, but most of my friends are basically that's how they raise their kids, you know, for the most part. I remember I saw something, I think it was on Twitter, and this may have been the first time you were brought to my attention. Another friend of mine brought you to my attention based on this Twitter thread thing that was going on, but it was something along the lines of a child that gets spanked is more likely to spank their children. And I was like, well, that's not true. And I can prove it. Like, and then my friend Stacy was like, you need to talk to Alex. She's got a lot of interesting thoughts on parenting and stuff like that. And originally when she said that, I was like, I don't need to talk to someone that like writes books about how to be a parent. You only know how to be a parent to your child, not to other people's childs, you know. And she goes, no, it's not like that. You'll like her, like check her out, you know, or whatever. And so, but I got in an argument with this person that said, no, it's a fact. Abused children are more likely to abuse. And I said, that's not what you said. You said spanked children are more likely to spank. That's not true. And
not true. I actually don't know that.
It's not. No.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Well, so think about it from this perspective.
We were spanked and we're not spanking. So
right.
I would feel like a big
and I don't spank.
Yeah. So that's awesome. That's really awesome.
They actually Columbus University, I'm sorry. They actually did a study and they tested their theory between 200,000 people. And they ran it of 200,000 people that were spanked as children, not brutally abused children, but just corporal punishment, right? And then saw through to when they had children, how many of them used corporal punishment, and it was like 1%.
1%? No,
yes.
Really?
Yes.
Because that would mean that it's
I would imagine some of them
in the U.S.
But I wonder too if
1%.
that's so interesting. I wonder if that's too a little bit of the timing. I think like people understand now better the consequences of spanking, and that it is you're physically.
I think a lot of it had to do with the
I would
internet.
call spanking abuse.
I think a lot of it was the internet. We got a lot more information than our parents would have got. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And it was right at our fingertips. And so we were able to look things up and go, oh, well, I shouldn't do that then. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I could see that drastic shift very easily. I mean,
yeah. That's amazing. I hadn't heard that statistic. So that's awesome.
I still think a lot of them lied.
Well, also, I just think, spanking's only a small portion of it. And there could be a lot of lying. I mean, But, parents still think that they need to manipulate their children in other ways. So parents oftentimes still punish their children, maybe not spank, but they'll put them in timeout, like solitary confinement. And they will.
Timeout's not for the kid. It's for the parent.
It's for the parent. Well, and I mean, but you have to think about psychologically what you're doing to a child. You're telling them that they're doing something so forbidden that they are extricated from society for a small portion of time or whatever it is. And
we're prepping
really
them for when they go to prison.
So you aren't for public schools. Yeah, a lot of parents still do that though. They think that, this behavior is unacceptable. So I'm going to put them in timeout, rewarding for really good behaviors and trying to but you're really, those tactics are not meeting the child where they are and not seeing what's really going on underneath those behaviors that are causing you to have those consequences, and you're imposing those consequences, which just makes them want to lie in the future. It makes them want to be sneaky. It makes them want to not get caught and not be honest with you. When parents, I think it's so funny when parents walk up to children and they say, "Did you just hit Tommy?" or whatever it is. It's like, why in the world would the kid tell you yes if they knew which they know that you're then going to stick them in timeout or take away their dessert. No ice cream for you after dinner. So you ask the question, it's just such a silly cycle. So spanking is a small piece of it.
Spanking is a big piece, but it's not addressing the root problem. And the root problem is seeing kids as people and having empathy for them and realizing that they don't have the impulse control yet. They need to be treated with respect and understanding and love. And that's what they crave. And they feel unloved when we punish them. I would say you should treat a kid like you should. I believe in being very consistent. So I think a lot about philosophy and how I can be consistent across the board in all my beliefs. And so the way I would treat a kid is the same way I would treat a spouse or a friend or someone else. You treat them respectfully, you hold healthy boundaries, and you follow through with those boundaries.
And when they make a mistake, I don't sit there when my husband accidentally makes a mistake or whatever.
It would be so weird. It was like, whatever. Go to your room and think about what you did or whatever.
No cake.
My wife does that to me.
No cake for you. Right? Yeah. Well,
I say that we need to model healthy relationships and that it is toxic for us to try and manipulate behavior through punishments and rewards. That is toxic. You shouldn't do that to a spouse and you shouldn't do it to kids because kids were their first relationship.
Someone should tell the U.S. government that.
Someone should absolutely tell. I think lots of people are trying to, but they're not listening. So we're working on it.
Right on, ladies.
I think even if they heard it, they would.
They don't give a fuck.
They don't care.
They're like, nah, just, do
they're the
anyway.
authoritarian parent.
Well, I like to piss people off on Twitter. Twitter to me it's a good medium to meet people to have interesting conversations. But generally it's just to shit post and piss off people with tiny little egos that overreact to everything that you say. So when people are like, "Oh, the woke mob's mad," I'm like, really? Where are they? Let's go get them. It's funny because I just like to use their just nut job shit against them. I think it's funny, but my favorite ones are when I get everyone riled up at the same time. And then I'm like, oh, my work here is done. But that's probably not a good lesson for my son. He does follow me.
I haven't gotten into shit posting that much. I did. I don't know. I'm scared too.
That's all Twitter's for, is to shit post.
I just stay off Twitter.
Right? I know. I got Barbara signed up. I was like, you have to sign up. You have to sign up. So you signed up and then you don't really use it.
No.
Yeah.
It's only good for shit posting. Just, keep that in mind. But if you guys start doing shows and you have guests on, then you can actually find some interesting people and contact them and be able to talk to them that way. So it's good for that too. That's really why, I actually follow their stupid ass guidelines and make sure I don't get kicked off. is so that I have that access, that pipeline to interesting people. But, you know, I really like to screw with people, so that's fun. I like to test their boundaries to see where their break point is. And it turns out it's very easy to break people. I don't know. Is that, what do you think? Because of like your parenting philosophy, it's not the first time I've heard something like that. I think it's taking more hold now with younger parents than it obviously in our, you know, when we were kids. But what do you think? What would your thought process be on why people are so fucking easy to trigger now? Because people say horrible shit to me and horrible shit in my DMs, and I'm like, that's adorable. Fuck. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't care.
I think a lot of it is they're actually not that upset. It's like a game, right?
Yeah.
So like you look cool in that.
I might agree with that when it's out in public, but when they DM you stuff like, you know, they want to, you know, stab your mother in her throat and fuck the wound and stuff like that. And I'm like,
yeah.
Well, you probably need to go see a mental health expert and get medication or padded room. Either way.
Yeah. No.
I get some bad shit. I could send you some of my DMs and you'd be like, what's happening? But that's because I like to piss people off, so I don't really care.
Right. You're kind of poking at them and so the response
I like to poke the Twitter bear.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm
well,
not
and
sure.
Some of the guests I've had have got people to go nutty too. Like I had Magnus Panvidia on a couple of times now, and he's a Boogaloo boy. And they're like, "Why'd you have a terrorist on your show?" And I was like, "When did that happen?" I don't remember that. I mean, I would. I absolutely would. I don't care. I can talk to almost anyone. That would be an interesting conversation. I want to know why they make their women like cover up like that. Are they ugly? I want to know. Tell me. Like, you know. It's like no one can say his wife's ugly because no one's ever seen her. That's what I'm thinking. That's what's going on there.
Oh no! Oh no!
Perhaps rooted in very different, very very different reasons. I'm sure, but
okay. I saw a post on Twitter today, and someone posted, "What's your favorite conspiracy theory?" And someone wrote the flat Earth conspiracy theory because it like gets people like really worked up. And he said one time he was going back and forth with this guy about the flat Earth conspiracy, and he doesn't even believe it, but he was like, it's the perfect troll. And he was like, I learned so much. He was giving me like all this scientific information about why the Earth, how we know that the Earth is a globe. And it was so awesome. And at the end, I was just like, that's what they want you to believe. I was like, holy shit. That's amazing.
She's working on shit posting.
He trolled this dude and like learned a lot from it. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I like to poke the bear, that's for sure. That's what, you know, I had Magnus on, and then when everyone flipped out about it, not everyone, I mean, but a lot of people flipped out, I was like, oh, a bunch of people canceled that were supposed to come on the show. They're like, I can't go on the show that had a terrorist. And I'm like, oh, but you'll go on CNN. Okay.
You should get Stefan Molyneux is a divisive person.
Yeah, but I don't like him.
Oh, okay. I don't know him that well.
People I find interesting, you know what I mean? And I don't find them interesting. So that's kind of. He has
the whole peaceful parenting thing.
Yeah, well, that's cool, but I can just talk to you about that. Like, I don't even talk to someone I don't find interesting. No, but I have people like they'll message me and be like, "Oh, can I come on the show?" And I'm like, "No, fuck you. Like, why would I come on my show? I don't know who you are, and you never say anything funny. Then you got to say something funny once in a while, or otherwise I don't want you on the show." But and then I had Mark Schneider, who's a nuclear operator, and he's got an extremely high-level security clearance to be able to do his work. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you want to come on the show with a terrorist? So I had Magnus co-host.
That is so cool. Wait, did that you did that show already?
I've done 3 shows with Mark. I've done the first show, and then Magnus and I did a show with him for about 3 hours. We had a bunch of guests come in. We had like Reed Coverdale popped in, John Molnar popped in. I had a bunch of people pop in for that one, and then I just did another show. Magnus's computer unfortunately cratered on him right before the show started, and so that was mostly just me and Mark, and then I brought in the Libertarian in Chief for like the last half an hour or whatever on that show too. So
wow,
I like to do that with really smart people. Is just get people like previous guests and stuff like that will ask very interesting questions of scientists. So, I don't know, maybe we'll get you guys in there one time to ask something. I've got some really interesting people coming up.
That's exciting.
Probably going to get me banned.
I'm excited to see.
That sounds awesome though.
Takes a lot of research. The 3-hour show was hilarious, by the way. We talked about the Navy and how they hide porn behind certain things.
Oh,
wait. They hide porn?
Yes.
Behind, what?
On submarines.
Okay.
They hide it behind stuff to screw with the next operator on the tour.
That's kind of funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And then I highly recommend the episode from last night, the Cowboys and Indians one.
Awesome.
Mainly because it's the first one that I've got that, YouTube removed one of my videos, but that one they gave me a warning. So one of them, they just removed it and they were like, this violated guidelines. And I'm like, what? How? It was with David Fite.
Okay.
I don't know. I said something about Asians being back to yellow or something.
Okay. Huh.
Who knows?
Huh. All right.
I'm not politically correct and I don't care.
Yeah. No.
All right, ladies, this has been great. What do you got going on? Throw out your grifts. I mean, I don't know. You don't have a grift, Barbara, because, your mom in it. But you got a grift. Throw out your grift there, Alex.
All right. Well, I would love some followers on Mantafly. I need beta testers to help beta test the app. And
I'll get my wife to go follow it. She's in all that girly crap.
Sweet. Well, it's for guys too, because guys get their hair cut more often than girls, right?
Well, yeah, probably. I don't know.
So
I honestly
get a barber to travel to your home.
When I was in the Marine Corps, I got my hair cut once a week.
Yep.
So
that's a lot.
but that wasn't by choice. They made me.
Right.
So
Mantafly. I would love help with that. If anyone wants to follow. And if you want to get involved with the project, reach out. My email is alex@mantafly.com. And Barbara and I do a podcast. We try and do 1 or 2 a week called Parenting Trap. And that's it.
Yeah, it's about parenting. And if anybody has parenting questions, then you can always email us at questions@parentingtrap.com. So if something we've said here has sparked your interest and you want to know a little bit more about our parenting ideas, we'll help answer those.
Yes.
Other than that,
Sweet. This has been awesome. Make sure you guys follow all of them. Apparently Barbara doesn't use her Twitter. I mean, she could shout it out again if she wants.
Yeah. I really don't use it. I do have a parenting trap. There's that parenting trap, which you can find us there. But then I wouldn't pay attention to my other Twitter.
All right, check that out there. Alex's Twitter is in the description below. Mantafly.com is in the description below. And their YouTube channel, Parenting Trap, is in the description below. Definitely go hit them up. Check it out. Tune in tomorrow, 2 p.m. Pacific time. We have Angela McArdle, who's running for Libertarian Chairwoman, LP National. And she's a badass. Also pretty fun to look at. So y'all want to check that out. Peace!